When I was 2 years old, I had to flee the war in my country. My parents had already been working in Germany for 2 months as guest workers. They wanted to save money and then return to start a business of their own. A business and a family, I guess. My mother was a tailor, my father a chef. I stayed in Bosnia with my grandma during that time. Then the war began. My father wanted to return to see what was happening. My mother talked him out of it because she knew that she might never see him again. They somehow managed to smuggle me across the border, through Croatia, Slovenia, Austria, and finally into Germany. For the next 7 years, I integrated into German society. We lived in Hamburg. The first proper sentences I spoke were in German. Bosnian was reserved for being yelled at by my parents. I deserved it. I was a handful as a child. Finally, when I was 9 and in 3rd grade, we were deported back. The war in Bosnia had ended, a peace treaty was signed, and the German government started sending families back. My father got 2 offers, one to migrate to Canada, the other to Australia. He chose neither, so we went back to Bosnia, to my estranged homeland. Once back, I had to integrate. Again, Hamburg is a big modern city, and suddenly I found myself in a small town without a reliable water or electricity supply. The roads and houses were devastated, and I was a stranger, basically pretending to be a long-lost local. There's a lot that could be said about that period of my life, but for the purposes of this essay, I wanted to focus on the duality that I felt back then. At home, I continued watching German TV channels. My father managed to hook up a satellite dish. The other kids in school had their own programs and with them references I wasn't aware of. Even without that detail, I was a strange kid. Not being able to connect with the others on a pop culture and thus cultural level only enhanced that. As I watched German TV during that period, I remember wondering what would have happened if I had stayed there. What would my life look like if I wasn't thrown out of it into this new one? Although Celine Song's 2023 film Past Lives is considered by many to be a romantic drama, for me it represents one of the most devastating depictions of the feeling I had been living with for almost all of my life. The existential dread of realizing that multiple timelines were never an option, no matter how much migrants might wish for them. In the past 15 years, the concept of multiverses has become a household phenomenon in narratives, especially in the film industry. Branching timelines, the main timeline, multiple realities, alternative selves, and so on leaped from sci-fi into the mainstream, not just in movies but also in other types of discourse. It is not uncommon to hear news and political commentators use concepts that were once reserved for niche science fiction crowds to comment on current world events. This suggests that the concept of multiverses seeped deeply into our collective consciousness, so much so that it started manifesting in everyday speech. To be absolutely clear, this is not a new concept. Like many other concepts we have tackled throughout our history, it is a repetition of something that we collectively struggled with before. More precisely, this notion of regarding our reality as just one of many other possible timelines is strongly tied to what Martin Heidegger called Geworfenheit or thrownness. Although Heidegger does not talk about other timelines in his writings, his observations of being thrown into the existence we are in, whether we want it or not, heavily imply a human inclination, or as he would describe it, a mood of considering that the existence we have can feel like a condemnation of choices made both for us and by us. In other words, it is highly existential in nature. Inescapable is the life we are living, no matter whether or not we think we made all the right choices. Our 2 protagonists, Nora and Hae Sung, are, like all of us, existential heroes. We meet them first in a short scene at the beginning of the film. An unnamed observer watches them and tries to make sense of the situation they are in. We are immediately thrown into the main premise of the film, in my opinion. Questioning our place in our own life is sometimes as difficult as it is for strangers who have never met us before, which implies that we are strangers to ourselves more often than not once we start thinking too hard about where we are in life. The narrative then jumps back 24 years into the past. It's 1999 in Seoul, South Korea. Our two protagonists are 12 years old. We get a glimpse of their friendship, which is more than camaraderie among classmates. Young's parents are preparing to migrate to Canada. She and her sister are occupied with choosing their Western names. Young chooses Nora. Her mother, able to see that she has a deep connection with Sung, decides to let her create one last memory with him before they leave South Korea. On their last school day, Young and Sung don't talk much. Sung is sad, and the two of them continue on separate paths. Young visibly going up, while Sung continues on a straight and ordinary path. The West is, of course, seen as a land of opportunity. Nora dreams of winning the Nobel Prize in Literature once she's there, implying that it cannot be won while you are in South Korea. Although we know that these notions are a bit absurd, we have to state that this feeling of being left behind in a country perceived as having no future is absolutely naturalistic in its essence and depiction. Over the years, I have seen many leave my own home country to go live in the West. The gut punch is real. You feel like you are left behind on a ship that is sinking. The ones leaving are just shy of pitying you. Sung, in my reading, feels the same. He is not envious, just devastated that the person he loves most thinks that staying where he thinks he belongs is something beneath them. We don't know whether Sung is satisfied with his own life or what he thinks about staying in Korea. His stoicism is exactly that, stoic and unreadable. We jump 12 years into the future. Young has just moved to New York City. She is an aspiring young writer in a tiny apartment. While talking to her mom and looking up relatives and neighbors on Facebook, she remembers Sung and contacts him. The nostalgia of seeing the old Facebook interface and the sudden ability to look up people from our past is on point, especially for those who have left a portion of their formative years in a distant place. I vividly remember 2010 being the year Facebook got big enough that you could reliably search for places and people you hadn't seen in years or even decades. I did it myself, looking up classmates I left behind in Germany, seeing photos of their high school graduations in the gym, remembering my thoughts as a 9-year-old while passing the high school buildings that one day I would be going into these buildings myself. Remembering stories about parts of the city we could only visit once we were older. Nothing happened. The things promised to me in my childhood were happening to others, not to me. Their life continued. Mine didn't. At least that's how it seemed to me for a long time. Young and Sung reconnect, and their conversation just continues where it left off. They adjust their schedules so they can speak to each other. Sung considers visiting New York but has to go to China first. Young got a writer's residency in upstate New York. The story that unfolds in this period is an uncannily accurate depiction of the angst of being 24. The floating state of existence ceases to exist. Decisions are less and less made for you. You slowly start to realize that Heidegger was right. You were thrown into this life. You start counting how many of the decisions that led you here were made by you and how many were made for you. And you realize you had no say in it whatsoever. The time for postponement is over. It does not matter if you agree with the decisions that led you to the life you are living currently, they are, as French philosopher Sartre would describe them, facticity, undeniable facts of existence that are now inscribed into our lives like immutable properties. I guess in an attempt to broaden Sung's understanding of how she developed as a person, she recommends to him the 2004 film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. We can see Sung watching the movie, but we don't really get to find out in what way he understands it. He may have felt it as a sign for Young that she wants them to have a love story together. However, we soon realize that the movie is a kind of foreshadowing. Young wants to forget about Sung. Young becomes aware of her own facticity. She abruptly decides not to talk to Sung anymore. When he asks her why, she says that she needs to focus on her life in New York and in the present. Young, in this instance, realizes decisions now have to be made by her, not for her, and she views Sung as a mechanism to cling to all decisions made for her and to procrastinate living her life now. Sung seems not to understand this notion Young is going through. He is about to join the army. Decisions are still made for him, and he seems fine with it. His understanding of affection is simple. If you love something, why does it matter where the decisions came from? In a more cultural reading, this dichotomy could be further examined by someone with more insight into concrete Asian American experiences when it comes to breaking out of the mold and others' expectations. I know it is a universal experience, but the nuances of Sung traveling to China as his great adventure seem like something that would require a deeper cultural understanding than I possess, so I'll stick with the universal human experience instead. The writer's residency is the part of the film where Young, for me, becomes Nora. She even declares it by writing her name on the wall in the bedroom at the residency house. Simultaneously, Sung deals with the breakup by focusing on his trip to China. We never really get an insight into his love or private life, just hints at possible romantic feelings. Nora's love life is no mystery at all. At the residency, she meets Arthur, another writer from New York. Here we are introduced to the concept of in-yun. Nora tells Arthur about this Buddhist belief that every interaction between two people is the result of having had an interaction in a past life. They kiss, and we jump another 12 years into the future, arriving at the present time. Arthur and Nora are married. Their writing careers are steadily progressing. We learn that Sung will be vacationing in New York and that he will meet up with Nora. He arrives in the city, and after a few rainy days, they finally meet again in person after more than 20 years. While they are walking through the city, they talk about their life decisions. Sung took a break from his girlfriend. It is not difficult to assume that it was because he had hopes of getting together with Nora. Even Nora has these suspicions later on when she tells Arthur that his assumptions were correct. "You were right," she tells him. "He came here to see me." Later that night, Arthur and Nora have a long conversation about what both of them are feeling. Nora, while telling Arthur about her date with Sung, cannot hide her emotions, even though she tries. Arthur is aware that he cannot compete with Sung when it comes to truly understanding Nora. Although they have been together for 12 years, this is the moment where his insecurity about connecting with her on a deep cultural level cracks. The longing for being understood is deeply ingrained in all of us. Emotionally understanding someone, as these scenes try to show, is just one side of the coin. Culturally, really knowing someone is reserved only if you are from that culture. Arthur is learning Korean to better understand Nora, but language is not culture. Language is just one of the many ways culture manifests from deep inside every single one of us. I am not Korean, but this concept is something many immigrants struggle with. I mentioned before that the first proper sentences I formed were in German. Once I moved back to Bosnia, I had to learn the language. Maybe it's the specific ages all of these things happened to me, but I never managed to truly adopt either German culture or Bosnian culture. To this day, I feel only partly understood by either side, and at home nowhere. Nora is struggling with this as well, I think. Arthur's contemplation of his own tragedy in all of this is summed up by his comment on Nora's sleep talking in Korean. You dream in a language that I can't understand. The next day, Nora and Sung go on a second date. She shows Sung pictures of Arthur's and her wedding in what seems an attempt to establish to him, and more importantly to herself, that relationship is what she values most. Her house of emotional cards falls apart, however, when she mentions that they were young when they got married because that was the easiest way to get a green card at the time. The film introduces here another aspect of immigrant life that contributes to the existential schism for people who have left their homeland. A constant fear of having your decisions not made for you, but by you, through compromise. The big what if that hangs above Nora's head is not the normal existential dread all of us feel. When it comes to multiple timelines, we all think of our lives in terms of missed opportunities and wrong decisions. An immigrant, however, has a heightened visceral reaction to these questions. A migrant has not been dreaming of a possible alternative timeline. They are literally plucked from one, carrying the memories of its reality with them. That alternative narrative they could have lived is not fantasy or daydreaming. It is a real life that feels like it was abandoned, not by dying, but by living somewhere else. This is why when an immigrant talks about life before migrating, it often feels like they are talking about a past life, a life before they were born, like the one the concept of Inyan describes. For Nora and millions of other immigrants, reincarnation is not something she has to believe in. She is, on an existential level, living it. At the end of the film, when Sung is about to go back to South Korea, he finally asks Nora if she thinks that maybe this is a past life and if she thinks that they will be together in the next one. This question, for the first time in the film, puts Sung in the existential driver's seat. Finally, he is the one who questions the quality of his current timeline, emphasizing that migration does not affect just the lives of the ones who migrate, but also the ones who are left behind. Reality becomes not a sea of infinite timelines, like pop culture has been obsessed with for the past 20-odd years. It becomes a more devastating and a more naturalistic question of just two timelines you are living in your mind simultaneously as an immigrant, all the time. It is a struggle of never really knowing who you are and what kind of person you would have been if you had just stayed home. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you like this analysis, please let me know. You can subscribe or leave a comment. I always love reading them. You can support me on Patreon as well. Take care.